What's up, everybody? Welcome to this latest edition of our Funko Pop Stories. This edition is going to focus on Funko's convention exclusives, and I'm mainly focusing on the big three conventions where Funko has a good number of shared exclusives. So this includes San Diego Comic-Con, Emerald City Comic-Con, and New York Comic-Con. Again, I consider these to be the big three. I know that they do have exclusives sometimes with other smaller conventions, but I think these are probably the most popular three for collectors. I do want to kick things off with a story of my own, which took place during San Diego Comic-Con last year, and its focus is mainly on this She-Ra rock candy figure. Now, this is not something I was interested in for myself, but what happened is, at that time, I was a member of a Facebook group where I felt overall pretty comfortable. I was familiar with some of the members, and the members, some of them were familiar with me because of my channel. And I had a member of the group reach out to me saying that she was trying to get a hold of this figure because it was going to go on the Funko shop at some point during the convention. And by the way, I don't know how that's going to work this year, but last year, every couple of hours during the convention, they would have something get posted on the Funko shop, and you had to be very quick to get them. And I was already keeping an eye on the Funko shop anyway. And, since she reached out, and even though I wasn't super familiar with her, I was like, you know what, I'll help out, because this is the way I looked at it in my mind, is that, I could, if she flaked on me, basically, I figured I could either sell the figure to get my money back, or I could trade this to somebody I was familiar with, so I felt like there wasn't really any losing in the situation. So I went ahead and got the figure, and I let her know that I was able to get it. She was ecstatic about that, very happy, and she did remind me that it would be maybe like 2 to 3 weeks before she would be able to pay me back. So that time passed, and nothing came from her. She didn't offer up any figures. She just said she still didn't have any money because her new job hadn't started, so basically I gave her more time and more time beyond that. And despite these extensions, still there was nothing from her. And at one point she even joked about me just going ahead and just sending her the figures, because it actually was another one. This was the main one she wanted, but it's actually 2 figures that I ended up getting that she was interested in. But she joked about me just sending the figures her way. And let's all be real. When somebody jokes about that, that they're not really joking. That means they're trying to get something for free. And I want to be very clear here. Some of my viewers have sent things my way, just out of kindness, because they appreciate what I do on my channel. I think that's kind of different. This, like I said, was somebody I was not familiar with. We had limited interaction. So no, I wasn't just going to send her something for free. I mean, I do my giveaways to give back to the community, but just some random individual like that, I wasn't just going to send something her way. And if I had set that precedent, I mean, I have thousands of subscribers. That's a tough precedent to set. So, I waited and I waited, and it got to a point where I was like, this is ridiculous. It was like over 2 months later, and I was like, I know a friend that would appreciate this. So I did a trade with her. She and I actually did on these trade boxes with each other, sent the figure her way. She absolutely loved it, and I'm glad that she ended up with it, because this figure has definitely gone up in value, and I think it's just cool, a cool item to have for somebody who is a fan of the character. But eventually, the original person that wanted this figure came back asking about her, and I said, that's long gone. I mean, this was months later. I said, that figure is long gone. And what she decided to do is to go into the Facebook group that we were both a member of and whine to people, saying that, and she actually had the nerve to put my name in it, saying that Franklyn McInnis gave away my figures, and I'm so heartbroken, and I hope that somebody else can help me out. And I was definitely livid about that, because I value my reputation. I know what type of person I am. I would not have just given away somebody's figures. And by the way, they were not her figures, because she hadn't given me anything for them. They weren't hers. So for her to leave out so many details and try to play victim, I did not appreciate that at all. And I did reach out to the admins, because I was familiar with the main admin in the group, and pretty much nothing was done about it. He said he was fine with the post. So I left the group, because this is the way I look at it. And I've actually left a lot of Facebook groups, because I try to avoid groups where I feel like they allow members that are leeches. And it's unfortunate that there are some leeches within the collecting community. People that will try to take advantage of others, people that will try to be manipulative to get what they want. Now, I'm not saying that all collectors are like this. I would never say that. I think this is a small percentage of the community, but it is unfortunate that some of these leeches get away with what they do, basically because nobody holds them accountable. But like I said, I left the group, which I felt was the right move, and I definitely distanced myself from this individual. And I really want to put this fair warning out there to everybody. You may have heard me say this recently on my channel, that I've gotten choosier about who I trade with and just who I deal with in general, because you do have to keep your eyes open. You do have to be cautious. There are scammers out there. There are leeches out there. So yeah, I would say, definitely try to develop some relationships within the collecting community that can be helpful. At the same time, keep your eyes open, be kind of careful, especially around the time of conventions. There are some people that really will try to take advantage of others, and that is unfortunate. But let's move on to some more positive stories here that were shared by members of the collecting community. So the next story here, this comes from FloridasBluestAngel. She is a YouTuber. She collects pops, and also she is a very talented artist. Do make sure you check out her channel when you get a chance to. I'm going to go in and share her story here word for word. Last year's SDCC was the first time I wanted to actively look for convention exclusives. I didn't know what to expect, and I completely forgot about it since I wasn't at home. I'm not home this year either, but now I'm prepared for it. Because I forgot when SDCC was taking place, I completely missed the initial releases. I was also on vacation in New Jersey at the time instead of my second home in Pennsylvania. Thankfully, I happened to check social media and saw that SDCC was taking place. I remembered the 2 pops that I wanted. Since I wasn't sure if I could hit them all or not while in New Jersey, I asked my mom in Florida to check our local Hot Topic for the Baby with Dean pop ride. Well, on the Saturday of the convention, the relatives I was with decided to check out the mall in New Jersey before we went to the boardwalk again. I decided to check Hot Topic for Baby with Dean. I checked the shelves of pops and only saw a couple of the leftover exclusives they had. None were the ones I was looking for. I almost gave up and decided to pay the higher prices since my mom didn't find any at ours, but something told me to check the very top shelf. I stepped back from the wall of pops, looked up, and saw 2 Baby with Dean pop rides left on the top shelf. I was stoked to find the main pop I wanted from last year's SDCC, and I decided to purchase the other pop I wanted, T-Dog, on Amazon for a cheap amount. Hopefully this year's SDCC pop hunt goes as smooth as well. Okay, so definitely appreciate FBA FloridasBluestAngel for sharing her story. And I actually do remember this story from last year, her kind of tracked down this Baby with Dean pop ride, because I did watch the video when she actually did obtain this, and I was glad that she was able to get it, because I know she is a big fan of Supernatural. So definitely 2 lessons to take away from her story here. For one thing, you got to make sure you have a plan in place. And on my channel with the Funko news videos, of course, I'm going to try to keep people updated, including a video right before the convention exclusives become available. So yeah, you kind of got to have a plan in place, especially if you know that you're going to be at work or whatever it may be. Try to figure out how you can go about getting what you want. And then also I would say, be vigilant. That's something that she showed here, that she was vigilant, and she did make sure that she looked thoroughly as well. Got to stress that also, that in some of these stores, you definitely have to make sure that you look thoroughly, depending on how they are set up. With something like Barnes & Noble is kind of easy, because you walk in on the day of the convention, they usually have a table right up front where they have all their convention exclusives. But not all stores are that way. So definitely make sure that you look thoroughly and you really go after the figures that you want. Our next story here comes from Funko Pops and Unicorns. She has a YouTube channel as well. Again, check that out once you have the opportunity. It starts off here, NYCC 2017. There were many of us that wanted the Dragonzord pop that was shared with Hot Topic. I live in a rural area, so the crowds during cons aren't too bad. In fact, there is usually around 3 to 5 people waiting outside each store for it to open. Anyway, this year I was one of the 4 people to wait outside Hot Topic, and they only got 7 Dragonzords in. I was the last of the 4 to check out and started talking to the manager, who is a friend of mine. He was shocked that all of us wanted the Dragonzord. He said he felt like not that many people would be into Power Rangers anymore, and that when he got the shipment in, he thought he would be able to buy at least 3 of the unsold pops by the end of the day. But after seeing all of us get them and knowing more would probably come, he said he was going to put one back for himself after I left. Point of the story, if you want a pop, do what you can to get it ASAP, and don't assume that it will be unpopular and readily available. So I definitely agree with her message there at the end. These convention exclusives will surprise you. Something that you think, oh, I can get that whenever, there's no big rush on that particular figure, may disappear on you quickly. So yeah, if you really want something, put your list together, which people already should be putting a list together. Get your list together and really go after the ones you want. Don't assume that they will be around. Now, I will say there are certain companies, certain retailers that do tend to restock, but there's no 100% guarantee in that. So again, try to get the ones that you want up front. Don't completely give up hope if you miss out initially, but I would say, just be vigilant. Again, stressing that, be vigilant. Okay, our next story here comes from Chase. This year, I actually went to ECCC, but the story I'm going to tell wasn't from the convention at all. It began when I left the Funko booth. As I was leaving, there was a guy handing out flyers for Funko HQ. As I received it, I completely forgot that Funko HQ wasn't far away from Seattle at all. So me and my mom, who also came with me, planned on going the next day as we had a full day left, and because why not? I also knew that Funko HQ also had ECCC exclusives that you could buy only there and not anywhere else. One pop in particular I was eyeing was the blue and green Bigfoot, as I missed out on the regular Bigfoot. I kept thinking to myself that if the regular Bigfoot sold out, then this one would too. So the next day came, and as we got to Funko HQ, amazing store by the way, there was a line just to get into the store. I thought to myself that I would never be able to get the blue and green Bigfoot. Sure enough, as I walked in the door, there it was at a table with the other ECCC Funko HQ exclusives. So I picked one up, and I felt the joy of success as it paid off for me for missing out on the regular Bigfoot. Of course, during the rest of our time at Funko HQ, I managed to get some other cool stuff, and my mom also found some pops she liked too. This experience taught me that the hunt is never over, even if you miss out on a pop you want. It's always worth a try to go to a store that you know may have an exclusive that you want. Okay, so again, I think you all are seeing a theme with some of these stories, and this is nothing that I asked these collectors to point out. But again, you see that theme of being vigilant and staying, after the figures that you want. You definitely have to put in the work and, check out different stores, check out different online retailers. Hopefully you have some friends within the collecting community. There's always a way to continue that hunt. Our next story here comes from Samuel. And he starts off here, my story begins back in 2016. It was my first time going to NYCC, and the reason was for the exclusive Funko Pops, but not only that. We were also seeing my favorite actors, Matt Smith and Alex Kingston. It was just me and my mom. My dad was busy with work. See, where we live, we're not far from New York City, so it was a 2-hour drive. When we got there, the first thing I wanted to do was get the exclusive Pops, but we didn't know that we had to get tickets. Instead, we went to a toy store booth that had a lot of pops, from commons to store exclusives to convention exclusives and even chases. When it was our turn, I got 3 pops. First was the Iron Throne. At the time, I didn't know it was expensive. That's until I got home. In my mind, I was like, oh, that looks cool. Then I got B.A. Baracus and Doug from Up. Later, we got to meet the actors and take a photo. All in all, it was a fun day, and I would do it again. The 3 things I need to do is 1, get the tickets, 2, make sure we can stay with my cousin, and 3, hope I can get some autographs. So, Samuel, he points out some good things here, that if you're actually going to go to a convention, then yes, even more planning is required. You definitely have to be prepared for that. And yes, the conventions do require, passes to get in. They require tickets, which can be pricey within themselves. And, I'll say there's some other things to consider as well. Like, are you going to be able to stay, the full day, or are you going to need to stay over somewhere? Just, all the usual things that you have to work out when you travel somewhere. Really think ahead about those, and definitely be prepared money wise, because conventions, especially these major ones, can be very pricey. Next up here, quick story here from Jack. I had the chance to meet the amazing and talented Jim Lee and Frank Miller, and it was great. I had them both sign some Funko Pops and some comic books, but I also asked Jim Lee a question since he did the art for the New 52 Justice League comic books. Of course, I had to ask, did you enjoy the Justice League movie? And Jim said, to be honest, no. But that wasn't the only thing that was cool about the event. I got to meet my idol, Frank Miller. I'm a huge comic book writer, I'm a comic book writer, meaning that I write the scripts and try to draw these characters, but fail so badly. He told me to never give up, which is the most cliche thing I have ever heard from any celebrity, but still, it lit a flame in my heart. So, I gotta say, that's very cool. I mean, you met 2 of the greats of comics, two great artists and, storytellers as well, because artists within themselves are storytellers as well. So yeah, that's very cool that you got to meet these individuals. And Frank Miller, I became a fan of his mainly with the Sin City movie, which he was a co-director on that, and of course it was based off of his comics. So that made me take note of his writing. And then I have read some of his other work, including Batman Year One, and also The Dark Knight Returns, which is phenomenal. So yeah, he has some great work. I wouldn't say he has like the perfect track record, but nobody does, But yeah, is definitely extremely talented. That's very cool that you got to meet him and that you got to get these pops signed. And you see the pops that he got signed there on the right. You see the Batgirl pop is signed, and also Darkseid, which I like that Darkseid pop. I'm probably just gonna have to wait for an updated Darkseid, which hopefully will happen sometime in the near future. Okay, and our last story for this edition of our Funko Pop Stories comes from Benjamin. Now, Benjamin didn't include a picture of his own. I do prefer that people do that, but I still think that he brings up a good point within this, so that's why I want to make sure that I shared his story here. I started collecting at the beginning of 2016. When I went to ECCC, I had no idea how jam-packed and amazing it would be. It took me about 6 hours to drive there. As soon as I arrived, I immediately went to the Funko booth, and the whole line was wrapped around to the beginning. Luckily, I entered a lottery that they shared online to be one of the first customers to shop. Even though I was an hour late, they still let me through. I was able to meet Yoko and Cameron right away, and that made me even more excited. I chose everything I wanted and ended up spending most of my money. Now, I've never been to a Comic-Con before, so I never even imagined what could be there. It was such an amazing time, meeting new people and seeing all the different cosplay. It was 2017, so there was a lot of Deadpool. I went to every booth I could and quickly realized that there were so many pops being sold. I found numerous grails and pops I've never seen before. The only problem was I only had $30 left. I bought a couple of Marvel ones I really liked and did a lot of window shopping after that. It was a really great experience, and I learned the hard way to always look at everything around you before you spend all your money at one booth. I definitely recommend going to Comic-Cons if you are really into pop culture. I can guarantee that you would have a blast. So there's some good advice here for people that actually go to conventions. Again, definitely make sure you have your money right. And then also, if it's possible, yes, I do think it's good. If it's possible to do like a full lap around the convention, see what all is available, and then come back and buy the figures that you want, that can be a bit risky because, if it's something that is highly sought after, it could be gone by the time you come back. So you kind of have to play that by ear, get the feel for the convention. If you think it's going to be gone, go ahead and get it. Get the ones that you really want. But for the most part, do try to get an idea of what all is available before you start spending, because yeah, conventions are tough. I think it's tough for the average person. Any average person that goes to a convention is going to leave wishing that they could have picked up more. That's just the way that it is. Unless you have like an endless supply of money, most people are going to leave wishing that they could have got more. But I will say this though, and this kind of goes back to Jack's story, that one great thing about the conventions is not just picking up the figures, but it is the overall experience. And I would definitely suggest for anybody, even if it's just a local one, at some point do try to get yourself to a convention, do experience that, get to see the cosplay, and support some sellers as well. You might, as a matter of fact, you might learn about some Funko Pop dealers in your area that you weren't aware of before. So yeah, at some point, if you get the opportunity, definitely do check out a Comic-Con. So that's going to do it for this edition of our Funko Pop Stories. I really do hope you enjoyed the stories, and I definitely appreciate everybody that contributed to this video. Now, as far as the next edition is concerned, I'm not going to do another one of these until a couple of weeks after SDCC wraps up, and it's actually going to be pretty much a follow-up to this video, but it's just going to focus on the experiences that you all have relating to this year's SDCC. So those will be the type of stories that I want. So of course, I don't expect anybody to send stories yet because the convention hasn't started. But once the convention happens, I want to know what people's experience is like, especially, what type of luck did you have trying to get the figures that you were after. So again, be patient with that. That is something that will happen after the convention. And I definitely look forward to hearing a lot more stories from you all. I like doing these community focused things. I had to start off by focusing on, with my own story, that there is a negative segment to our community, but I do think that is a small fraction of the community. For the most part, I think it is pretty positive amongst collectors. I think we do really look out for each other and want to see each other get the figures that we want. So let's all do try to keep that in mind with SDCC, that it's not all just about each individual getting what we want, but it's about us looking out for each other. And that can be in just sharing a link, sharing information, whatever it may be. And helping out friends, definitely people that you're very comfortable with. Helping out friends is major as well. So let me not ramble on anymore. That's gonna do it for this particular video, and my voice is starting to get worn out. But yeah, again, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you all again real soon.